All right, we'll call the meeting to order and start off with the roll call.
Sounds good. Good evening, everybody. Chair Wirtz.
Here.
Vice Chair Yant is not here yet anyway. Tony Bevel did say he would be late and may not make it, but he was going to try. Dorian Leibel, welcome.
Here. Thank you.
Ruth Ann Rustak. Here. Mike Smith.
Here.
And Chris West.
Here.
All right, great. Thank you.
You're on mute, Jason.
You're on mute.
Sorry, thank you. I was saying, Dorian, we get to welcome you here in a few minutes, but we have to approve our minutes first, so.
No problem.
All right, so does anybody have any corrections on the minutes? Okay.
Go ahead, Chris.
Andy did a great job, so I move that we accept the minutes.
I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion before we vote? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All right.
Yeah, any opposed, say no. All right, so we'll move on to business and can welcome Dorian. I don't know if you want to say hi. You got some big speech planned or anything, but thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it for sure. I've been here now 3 years in Sherwood and in Washington County the last 25 or so, and I manage the traffic signals for Washington County. So hopefully my knowledge will come in handy.
That's great. Thank you.
Dorian, just so you know, a little later on there is an initiation ceremony, so just be prepared. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
All right, well, let's move on to issues and complaints, and we'll start with the tracking sheet, which several of our items on the agenda are on the tracking sheet that we're going to touch on. So I guess if there's anything not on the tracking sheet, or I'm sorry, that's not on the agenda, that's on the tracking sheet that anybody wants to discuss, this would be the time for that.
So I know that we have discussed at this committee and at the police advisory about the whatever summary is going to go to council, and I just wondered where that is at.
So Angie's been working on that, and we've been kind of going back and forth with the proofs. Did we send that to them, Angie? I can't remember. We sent a lot of stuff to the board.
We sent Chief sent it to Julia to review, okay. And I'm not sure if there was someone else, but it's in the works. We are working on it.
So it's Julia's fault that we have.
Hey, I just got it today.
oh, okay, all right.
But it is very much in process. I mean, I think it will be a matter of days, maybe, from what I can tell, if that.
All right. If there's no other comments on the tracking sheet in general, we can move on. So we'll go to 2020-007, and looks like we've got an update on the appeal process.
Yeah, and I think that's me. At least it is on the agenda. If you recall that one, you made a recommendation to the city manager, and then we posted signs. We got comments. You affirmed the recommendation. The city manager put the signs up, and then I believe you received a letter, essentially asking to appeal that decision. You also received at least one letter that I'm aware of that was in support of that decision. And at the last meeting, you asked about that process, and I was fairly certain that I knew the answer, but I asked to be given the opportunity to confirm that, and I did confirm that there is no appeal process. And I'm just going to look at an email from our city attorney. Sherwood Municipal Code 10.12.010 sub E sub 8 says the city manager or the city manager's designee by delegated authority from the city council is the final decision-making authority for all such requests, which is the installation of the no parking sign. So that is the answer.
And Joe's leaving town.
Yes. I don't think that's why.
Oh, okay.
Is that code you referenced? What groups? The Traffic Safety Committee, but are there other committees, commissions, council? What all does that apply to?
That's just regarding the signage, essentially, the no parking signs. I can't remember what the section number is for that, but it's not planning related or parks board related. It's really focused just on the stuff that's within your purview. And again, you guys are making, in these instances, you're making recommendations to the city manager, and it's his decision.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to think through. I mean, we've only had so many things come to us, so it's hard to try and think ahead to what else could come up in the future. But I was just trying to think through if that's something that could or should be revisited, as far as, making sure that there's an avenue for people to make sure that their voice is heard.
Yeah, I mean, certainly that is potentially worth a conversation with the council. I would say that having this committee review these things and very thoroughly, I might add, we've given people an avenue to submit a request, an avenue for that request to be discussed over sometimes multiple meetings, and then a recommendation to the city manager. Depending on the situation, there's also posted notice. So I think that you're already, or we, the city, are already doing significantly more opportunities for the public to chime in than has historically been the case.
Yeah, certainly. Chris, you have something?
Yeah, Julia, one thing I was thinking is that we didn't get to at least see the comments from the posting notice. The last time we made a recommendation, and I'm not sure that we would have changed anything, but that's something where we were kind of hit cold, I think, when we got the pushback, and that may be something that, at least sharing with us any kind of comments, I think that would help us, one, to learn and evaluate stuff in the future.
Yeah, and I'll let Captain Carlson speak to the comments and kind of what the timing of those. I do know that in that particular one, we did things differently than we are going to be doing things in the future. where essentially you're going to have a meeting and say, this sounds like a good idea, post notice, and then we'll post notice and then we'll bring those comments back. It was the first one, and we sort of realized after you made your decision that we missed that notice step, and so we did the notice, and so the timing was a little off, but that's not going to be the case going forward. But Captain Carlson, can you speak to the comments that were received? I can't remember how that got back to the committee.
We only had a few, and I believe those were all sent out to the committee members, if I remember right. I think we only had 2, I believe, without looking back. And then the 2 citizen comments that were read, one last meeting, and then we'll have another one read this meeting.
So essentially, if I recall correctly, now that you said that, it triggered my memory. I think that the comments were included in your packet, and then the decision was made, and then the comments that you got about the appeal, I believe, came after your recommendation to the city manager, and the signs were installed. Does that sound right, Captain?
Yes. We had some questions before the signage went up, and those were answered. I believe were in the packet, but the 2 comments were after the signs were in.
So on this particular agenda item or issue item, is there anything outstanding on it? I mean, the signs are in, the appeal process, we've kind of just worked through that now. Can we close this out? And it doesn't seem like it would need any particular decision or action from us tonight to do that.
No, I think that the only reason why it's still on your list is because there was the question about the appeal. I think it is a complete decision. You've completed your action. There was just a question of whether or not there was some appeal process and a role for you guys in that process.
Right, that's my understanding as well. Yeah. Chris?
So I move that we close 2020-007 as completed.
Second.
All right, we'll go ahead and vote on that. So all in favor, say aye.
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 And all opposed, say no. None. All right. Okay, so let's move on to 2020-009. And we'll have a status progress update from Captain Carlson.
So since that's a fairly substantial modification where they're going to have to, looks like, tear up some sidewalk and do all that, it's still in the planning process is my understanding. So it's still over at Public Works being planned out. So that's kind of where it is right now. There's really no movement yet on that one.
Okay. So on to the next one, 2020-012.
Jason, is that one closed because it's the work's being scheduled and our stuff is done?
009 is not closed.
Okay.
It's still pending. At least the one I'm looking at shows it's still pending.
Yes,
Well,
it's still pending.
Okay.
Has the work been approved though? I mean, is our part with it completed? The work is scheduled to be done. It just hasn't been done yet, but everything that we can do has been done.
Yes, city manager approved it. The work order, so to speak, has been forwarded over to Public Works, and that's where it's sitting right now.
Go ahead, Chris.
So that in my mind, we're done. It's closed for us, I guess. But maybe we need to clarify, or set a standard, Jason, of whether it's only closed when either we've decided not to do work or the work's done. Because I'm kind of where Mike is. That was my point with the city manager saying it's approved and it just needs to be scheduled. On our checklist, we're done with it.
Yeah, I thought we talked about this last month, and there it seems like I remember there was a preference to keep it on there because the work wasn't done yet, similar to the signage one, the no parking, that there was a desire to keep it pending until, you know, the signs were in place and the appeal process was over. I like checking boxes, so I like the idea of closing it out. I also see some value in having some sort of tracking for things that are in progress, you know, off our plate, but still need to be done. Because, I mean, if a year goes by and no work ever gets done, it would be good for this group to be able to, you know, ask the question on where things are at and keep track of them so they don't fall off anybody's radar. So I think I could go either way.
I do. That's a great point, and I withdraw my thought. It keeps us in the game till it's done, and I think that makes sense because we made the recommendation based on our review, and if there's budgetary stuff that something gets deferred, we need to make sure that we're tracking it and working with the new city manager when she or he shows up.
I think in some situations, you know, the decision we made recommended that a project be put on the capital improvement program list. So it's something that's much farther out in the future. And that situation, the decision to put it on the list was the decision that was made. So if it gets on the list, then we're done. If our decision is to do some physical improvement, and that's the decision we're tracking, then maybe we track that until the improvement's done. I don't see a value in keeping something on a list for 5 years, but if we know it's going to get done, I don't know. Ruth Ann, Dorian, Mike, you guys got any thoughts?
That sounds like it makes good sense to me. You're right. 5 years on the list because it's on the capital improvement plan seems kind of useless. But I think it is. I think it's true. It's good to have an update on what happens at Sequoia and Meineke. No, wrong one. Sequoia. Yeah, Meineke and Sequoia. Yeah.
So, Captain Carlson, I'm okay with, and others can weigh in as well, but I'm okay with not having every pending item on the agenda every week. You know, if there's no update and it's just in progress, I would be okay with keeping it on pending on the list, but not part of the agenda. And then if you guys have updates, you could add them to the agenda for those meetings.
Yeah, we can do that. I can just keep a note here and keep checking and try to get a date when that work's going to be started. And when that happens, I can give you an update.
Okay. All right. So are we on to 2012? And this is, looks like we've got some stuff in the packet talking about lighting results, light meter results. I don't know if Captain Carlson or you've got anything you want to add before we discuss, or Mr. Glotty, if you'd like to give a summary.
Okay. We did do a lighting analysis. I have a memo in there for you to read. Basically, it says that number one is that we are identifying what our background standards would be. So somewhere between 1.8 and 2 foot candles is what we're basically trying to establish as our standard. That's what we have in other cities and everything like that. So this is relative to that. Out of the four corners, the one that they replaced the light in with an LED fixture meets the requirement. Hits it at 1.9 foot candles as measured. The other three corners do not. One corner does have an existing light in it, but it is a low pressure sodium system, and it has a lot of overgrown trees and stuff like that, which are basically preventing it from illuminating an area adequately. And part of the recommendation is to get Public Works to trim that back such that the light is basically not hindered from, illuminating that area, that intersection area. But that still doesn't take care of the full intersection. And I think that given the area, putting in one extra light might be recommended. I'm not sure how that would be done. Public Works would have to work that out. But to bring that whole intersection up to full standard, I think that's kind of doing all four corners. I say doing three probably gets you the lighting standard that you need. And replacement of the bulb of the existing low pressure sodium with an LED, and then possibly putting in a third light in the opposite corner would provide lighting sufficient for safety. And there is a drawing that shows you which corners and where. It's part after the safety complaint in the packet. They sort of got separated.
Great, thank you. Chris?
Yeah, but since I know I go through that intersection every morning, it's not as dark as it used to be, as it was a couple months ago. And I recognized that there was those branches on that other corner. My only fear, Bob, is that when the tree's trimmed, you may get some whining from the apartment complexes sitting right there with that bright light. But
the trees, they may complain, but the trees are within the public right of way.
okay, that's the only thing that I saw thinking about putting a brighter bulb in that fixture and trimming the tree, that it may light up somebody's living room or bedroom pretty well, but
Actually it shouldn't. I mean, the lights that if they're established and set correctly, they won't illuminate behind them that much.
Okay, cool.
You won't get brightness. It's mostly pointed down, especially the LEDs. I still think that if we can get a third one in the opposite corners, the southwest or the southeast corner, although there's nothing there to hang it on, that would be good. That would balance out that whole intersection a lot better. But that's going to have to be something that Public Works would have to work on.
Dorian, you got?
I just wanted to add, I definitely agree with it needing more lighting. I live just on Hawk Court, just up basically on the same street practically. But even if it was an issue of brightness to the apartment complex, they do make simple shrouds that run around the back side of the fixture that block the light from going backwards, and it just directs it, it keeps everything towards the street. We actually have many of those all throughout the county that, we get lots of complaints for lights lighting up people's living rooms. So those shrouds help a lot.
So is Lad Hill city or county? Maybe we can put the light on the county.
No, I'm pretty sure it's city. At least at the intersection anyways.
Yeah.
It's city owned.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I live in Sherwood, Chris.
Yeah.
But we do maintain the traffic signals in the city.
Actually, no, I think we got something with the county. We only have one one real traffic signaled out by the high school. And I think that's done by the county. I keep getting the reports from them each year.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
Bob, he is with the
I'm
county.
with the county. I actually take care of those signals.
yeah. Okay.
I was out at the one by the fire station today.
Yeah.
I think that this is in my opinion, this is a kind of a perfect sort of scenario for this group, this committee, that the issue came forward to us. We've looked into it. We got some more data. The data that was collected, found that, it doesn't meet the standards, and we have an opportunity to do something that is, it's not going to necessarily be cheap, but it's not outrageous. I mean, we're not putting in a roundabout or something. We're just adding a light, and has an opportunity to improve the pedestrian and vehicle safety at a really quite heavily used intersection, as well as adjacent to a school that has a lot of pedestrian traffic and will have lots more pedestrian traffic in the future. I'm very much in support of the effort recommended, which would be to replace the fixture on the northwest corner and add another fixture on the south corners. I would be open to suggestions on, I mean, obviously it's going to depend on what makes the most sense as far as where you can put that light, but I know that during school commuting times, they use the eastern leg crosswalk and the northern leg crosswalk. So I would, I think that it would provide most benefit on the southeast corner, but that could be figured out when they do some planning on what's possible out there. But I think this is great. Ruth Ann, you have a question or comment?
Do we know that what you described as the use of that crosswalk is always, or is that the choice of the crossing guard there? Because the times that I've been through there, I thought it was the west crosswalk that they were using, the west and well, depending. The west side on Sunset, and now I'm confused again. The south side on Sunset and the west side on Lad Hill, or actually Main Street, is the one that I have found. But then I have not been up there when there have been kids there for a long time, needless to say. So I just wonder if they have a choice. Is it always the same?
I haven't walked my kids there in a year, so I'm not sure what they're doing now, but last year, the crossing guards were using the eastern leg crosswalk and the northern leg crosswalk. I'm sure they could change that if there was a reason to change it. That's just my experience has been that's where the crossing guards have been.
And Jason, you're correct. Those are still the two crosswalks that they're using. I live just right up the street from there, and those are the two.
All right. Well, anybody want to throw out a motion?
I move that we keep this at where it's at because we haven't solved the problem yet.
Can you clarify that? What do you mean by that?
Well, if the work hasn't been done in terms of the other light that Bob is recommending, or I guess that's what we could, is that what you're saying, that we need to recommend that, Jason?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, then I move that the city look to replacing the light element on the, let me get my directions, the northwest, is that right? Northwest corner and after that's done, evaluate how the other corners are with the light meter, and then we can assess where to best put something else. So that's my motion.
If I can make a recommendation, this is Bob. Replace the unit with an LED on the northwest corner. That's the existing light. And then let Public Works decide which of the other two corners is most appropriate to put in a light fixture. Let them deal with that.
So moved.
So, okay.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion on that motion on table? I think the way it's worded sounds good to me. All right, well, let's take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 And any opposed, say no. All right, cool. So let's move on to our next one, 2021-001.
Okay, so last meeting, I was asked to look and see how many crashes I could find that occurred in that intersection. I went back to 2015. I could find two. One was in November of 2019. That was a car versus PED. And the other one was in January 2016. That was a hit and run, which resulted in a DUI arrest. Those are the only two crashes I could find at that intersection. The average speed was 28. To be honest with you, that was kind of surprising. I thought it'd be a little bit higher than that. The max speed was 45. 85% of the traffic was going 30 miles an hour or less. Total volume was almost 11,000 cars during a 3-week time frame. 83% of the vehicles were within the 23 to 33 speed limit. And then you could see the rest of that. Only 3% of the vehicles was traveling over 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. Any questions on any of that?
Chris?
Yeah, since I live right off of there, and I know we discussed it last month, coming from the east side near where the trailer was, out of that development, it's impossible to look up Lad Hill because of the way the road's curved and the fences and the trees. And when I'm crossing over, if I'm in that neighborhood, I'm crossing over to Willow on the other side, and I'm not sure what I'm doing. I'm inching out, and that's not the speed has always been my concern, but the data, it's not that big of an issue. At least it used to be, and the PD used to park on the Willow there. That was a great spot to tag people coming down, but that just hasn't been the spot to tag people coming down. But so I think things are fine right now, given the data. And they were asking, if I remember right, to have a light put in there, correct?
I was trying to look up what the request was. Mike, did you have?
I think the request was for the light at Lad Hill and Sunset.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. But Chris, I have to agree with you. And Captain, I'm really surprised at the data because I live up on Willow on the uphill side, and I can hear the cars going by there, and I don't know whether having the measuring trailer out there invisible skews the data or what, but I'm really surprised that the speeds are as low as the data shows here.
Yeah, that's a constant extra patrol spot that we always hit. And usually when we have the trailer up there, the speeds do decrease for a while. But once we pull the trailer and they kind of forget, and then those speeds creep up again, and then we end up having to go back out there and do another focus patrol. So that's usually the cycle we go through on Lad Hill there.
When I was working in Newburgh, we had traffic counters, the tubes that you put across the road, and a little box that chains to a tree or a signpost or something. And we would use those for traffic counts, but they would also collect speed and other data. But they don't have that visible, this is a police thing that's been put out there, and kind of, I think they have less likelihood to change drivers' behavior, and so you get a little bit better picture about what's going on. Is that something that I think I've asked this before? I think the answer is no, that the city does not currently have anything like that. I wonder if that's something the city could or would consider getting.
We do have traffic tubes.
We have traffic tubes. We've got two setups that we can utilize.
So is that something that we could add to a toolbox when like speed complaints come in?
It is available to you, yes.
Okay. I'm not saying necessarily that we should do it in this particular situation, but if people's driver behavior is being changed by the trailer, and it seems clear that it's not representing what's going on out there, then that could be something we could consider in the future. I was kind of on the same page as you, Chris and Mike, that I thought the traffic, the speeds were less than I might have expected, and at the speeds that people are driving, that it doesn't really warrant more than maybe the occasional patrol that's going on now. Any other thoughts on that? So this request was for the additional, which number are we on here?
2101.
01. Concern for intersection Lad Hill, sunset traffic light and extra patrol proposed. So there were kind of two requests, one for the traffic light and one for extra patrol. Can we, do folks feel like we could make a decision and close this one out? Chris?
Yeah, I'd offer a motion that, given the data now, that we continue with patrols, extra patrols when they can be done, and if there's a lot of tickets issued, reevaluate it. I'm not sure. I guess I'm not sure if I want to close it, because I sense that the trailer, using the trailer, really biased the numbers. It's kind of my gut, because it was so big there, right on that corner. It really did. So That's my gut.
You want to test your theory?
You mean I'm not coming down Lad Hill fast to get a ticket.
No, I mean we could see if the city could put those traffic counters out as an alternate method to evaluate speeds. Maybe we wait a few weeks and let the people's reaction to that trailer kind of wear out again.
Let them forget the behavioral change that occurred and get back to normal. The other thing is, it's not only cars, it's the bikes coming off that hill, ripping down into that intersection too. So, but they don't have to stop under law anymore, right, Captain?
I believe they still do. They have to obey the traffic light or sign.
Okay. Maybe that was just some, I thought I remember something, either maybe it was just Portland versus state, but I thought that they were getting the pass on rolling through stop signs.
As far as I know, they have to stop. They have to obey. They can't just blow through those intersections.
So we kind of have a motion on the table. Does anybody else?
I'd modify it to the wait a couple weeks and deploy the tubes to see if we have a different data set to evaluate.
I'll second that. I'd love to see additional data.
Okay, Bob, is that something that you would support doing at some point? I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly 2 weeks. It could be when you guys can fit it in.
It would be when we can fit it in. Yeah. We're getting into our busy season right now, but I think I can get it in sometime in late May. We'll see what we can do.
All right, we got a motion that was seconded, so if there's no other discussion, we can vote. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And all opposed? None? All right, so we'll move on to 2021-002. This is moving the crosswalk signal item.
So some of the research we came up with, and I think you guys got things sent to you as late as today regarding that. So basically the school district office is just basically that. They do have students in there for testing during COVID, but it's basically just an administrative office, not used for any schooling or anything such as that. That crosswalk is within the distance, though, of Hawksview. It's basically approximately 310 feet from Hawksview property line, that driveway there. The only issue would probably be those signs outside on Sherwood Boulevard coming into Old Town before the new district office. Those are approximately 800 or so feet past Hawksview property line, close to 900 feet. But the crosswalk itself is within the RS for crosswalks
Chris?
So, Captain, or Bob, what's the distance that we'd be moving the eastbound, I think that's eastbound, school zone towards Hawksview? Are we talking 200 or 300 feet or something like that? What's
The maximum distance, I believe, is like 400 feet before the property line of a school.
Ruthann?
Let me see. Am I mute? No, I'm not. Well, we're talking about two separate issues. I think the question on the complaint was about the one you can push the button and it makes a red light to stop traffic. That's a different situation than I think the one that Chris was just talking about with the flashing light warning to slow down for the school zone. How did we end up adding that one in on this request? And is it against the law for us to have that warning outside that distance? What harm does it do to have it farther away?
Well, it establishes a school zone, which reduces the speed. So technically, you could get a speeding ticket if you're speeding in a 20 mile an hour as opposed to a 25 mile an hour. And if it's not technically a school zone, those signs are invalid.
I see. Okay, that answers that question. So I suppose a simple solution to that would be just to turn that off. But then we wouldn't have that warning of people approaching the school district, the school zone. This is really kind of hard because it's going to cost a lot to move and change all of that. But maybe it's something that the city has to tighten the belt and do.
Chris, your hand's still up?
I think the discussion and looking at the correspondence with Captain Hanlon, I think when we talked about this last month, the school district has some financial responsibility in this game too, because it was their decision to change the utilization of the old Hopkins. And so I think the other thing from the note from Jim Rose at the school district is goes along a little bit with what Captain Carlson was saying about where that existing flashing crossing or stop crossing signal is still kind of within the school zone, and it's not that far off. That at least for now, that's till the city and or the school district come up with the funds. It's still very useful in protecting kids. Maybe the school district needs to put crossing guards up closer to the school at that other crossing point. But I think the one thing that needs to be done, and somebody needs to figure out how to pay it, is to move the school zone signage to where it's legal. It's the right zone. And while the person who submitted the request didn't delineate that, I think our research or our involvement has flagged that as an issue. So,
Dorian? Are you muted? You're muted.
Sorry, I was muted. As far as the school zone flashers go that are in the median, in the middle of the road, they're definitely unique as far as school zone flashers go compared to normal ones, say on like the ones on Edie Road that both face the same direction and wigwag. The one that's in front of the old Hopkins, it's now an administrative building that's basically right underneath the traffic signal for a crossing that would actually make the Sunset or Sherwood Boulevard go red for a crossing. Those two school beacons can be separated, and one can run and one doesn't have to run. I have control over both individually. So if there is an issue with compliance as far as school zones go, it's not an issue for me to just shut the one down in front of the old Hopkins and keep the other one in front of Hawksview running. That's a simple matter. I can do it in 2 minutes. So I don't know beyond that yet. I don't have enough information as far as what you guys want to do. If you want to put, are you talking about putting normal school zone flashers, like solar school zone flashers, one on each side of the road in front of Hawksview with wigwags, you know, and the tattletale facing the other direction, or keeping this rather unique configuration with two heads opposing each other in the middle of the road?
Julia, you got your...
Yeah, I was just going to, I guess, comment that, because you guys are talking about the cost of relocating the signal, and I don't think you need to worry so much about that. I think that there was some discussion between the city manager and the chief today via email kind of about this idea, and certainly we would, if it's going to be moved, it would most likely be something that we would look to the school district to contribute significantly to. I think what you guys can chime in on is whether or not you think it's a good idea, whether or not you think that's supported or not, and then ultimately the city will have to determine whether or not we can afford it and want to afford it.
So the issue of the school zone and the signage for the school zone is a separate issue, in my mind, one that's going to be taken care of not as part of this agenda item, but it came about because of our discussions. So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're going to focus our discussion on the request to relocate the traffic signal that's from the current location to the Hawksview crosswalk, mid-block crosswalk. Let's see, Ruth Ann, you got your hand up?
Yes. The suggestion of just turning one or the other off worries me a little bit. The fact that it's still there, I think, would leave pedestrians thinking that it works, and that we might have children trying to cross at one that's turned off. I would be more in favor of spending the money to remove one or move the one that can make a red light closer to the school than to just turn one off.
If I can clarify, what I was talking about is just the school zone beacon that drops the speed to 20 miles an hour, and that one in front of the old Hopkins is essentially right underneath the traffic signal as it exists. And I'm not talking about turning the traffic signal off, just, you know, the two opposing 12-inch yellow flashers that's right underneath the signal. I don't know, like there was some discussion about it possibly being outside of what would be considered a school zone now, since Hopkins isn't technically a school anymore, but Hawksview is. And typically the school zone beacons are not usually more than 150 feet from the edge of a school property. So that's all I was talking about. So I don't feel like there would be necessarily a safety issue with that because the signal is still there. Now I understand more because we're talking about actually moving that traffic signal up towards Hawksview, and yeah, that is a big project. That's significant.
Yeah,
Mike?
thank you.
Oh,
I thought you were referring to the crosswalk. So.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Mike?
And I see in the letter from Jim Rose. It says, we were told that moving the stoplight to the Hawksview would be too close to the three-way stop intersection. Is that really an issue? And I don't know, Bob or Julia might have more information on that. Is there something legally in terms of distance it has to be from that intersection?
Technically, we would probably do an analysis to find and make sure that the locating of any type of head crossing signalized intersection meets the criteria for, what is the standard based on stacking depths and stuff like that. My gut reaction to it is it doesn't seem like there would be an issue with locating the signal where the current head crossing is for the elementary school there to make that a signalized intersection. Traffic backup occurs anyway because people tend to stop out in traffic and let their kids out. They can't park in the bus zone. So, putting a signal in there is not going to change the traffic, backup during those commute times, but we don't have commute times right now. I would only do it from a standpoint of saying, let's make sure we got the spacing, the standard sight distance and all that sort of stuff taken care of, stacking distance, and then that would set it up. I'm not sure about reusing the same equipment. The stuff is somewhat older. There would probably have to be a check on that to make sure that we could reutilize the signal equipment, cabinets, whatever. If not, you'd have to purchase new. So it's not a cheap alternative. Let's put it that way. But is it doable? My gut reaction is, yeah, we could do it from a technical sense.
Dorian?
Just in my experience, and I know this already does exist in the city too, necessarily a less expensive alternative are the rectangular rapid flash beacons, and having actual push buttons for those. You can make them at whatever time you want to flash, from basically 10 seconds to a minute, and they're as easy to install as any school zone beacon, and they're definitely very visible, and people pay attention to them, especially in front of a school. So it might be something to think of anyways.
Sounds like we've discussed these previously. It sounds like the city council is opposed to rapid flashing rectangular beacons.
I don't think they're opposed to it. It's just not a primary thing that they want to keep going to for every solution, is to put in flashers everywhere. I think there's an appropriate location for those uses. It's not just a ubiquitous, let's put in a rapid flashing beaker all over town. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good to know. I thought last time we discussed it and there was a counselor or some counselors that said they didn't like the way they looked. And so they were kind of taken off the table as far as an option.
I think I think it's a combination. I think Bob's right that doesn't mean that they're completely off the table, but I think that they're not our go-to solution. And I think that depending on where and what and why, council may not like them. So I think that it's certainly, we just have to have those conversations with council if that is a specific recommendation.
Okay.
Thanks. Mike, you still got your hand up there? Well, I think that doing something is a good idea. I think I would be in favor of maybe making some sort of motion to request that the city do maybe like a feasibility analysis and a cost estimate to look at, what options are there? Can the signal be relocated? can the equipment be reused? What can go back in, at this new location? Is the new location appropriate? Does it meet site distance? I'd also be interested to understand, what would it look like to put in a signal there and what's that cost? But also, what about something other than a signal, such as the rectangular rapid flashing beacons, or I can't remember the name of them, but the horizontal, it's like a traffic signal, but they, I can't think of the name of it. But
Talking about the hawk signals.
yes, there you go. There's other options that could be done there, and maybe, basically just leave it open and let Public Works or let the city kind of just look into it and come back with maybe some options or recommendations and some costs associated with it. Most likely this is something that's going to be high dollar that we're just going to end up recommending that the city include in a future budgeting cycle. But Chris?
There we go. I'll take what you said, Jason, and just say that we move that we ask the city to do a little bit of investigation and analysis on what could be done to have some kind of crossing installed at Hawks View and remove the existing crossing light in front of the admin building. And let's see what the assessment is. I think personally, that's my motion. I won't say more.
Thanks. Anybody like that motion? Want to second it?
I'll second it.
Anybody have any comments on that? Thoughts? Anything they want to modify?
I will put my 2 cents in now that I was going to add on the end, since you opened discussion. I just think we clearly need to have a crossing close to the school for the kids, and that we need to do our due diligence to make that happen.
Mike?
And this isn't part of the motion, but I do think we need to make the recommendation that school zone sign be changed as soon as possible to be accurate, so that when any tickets are given out, they're being given out in a legitimate way.
Captain Carlson, is that something that's being actively worked on? You're muted.
No, nothing's been done yet. I figured we'd discuss that here first.
Okay, well, let's close out that agenda item first, and then we can talk about that. Ruth Ann?
Oh, it's just a question about that school zone thing. Since it didn't come to us as a request, is it our purview to make recommendations? Can we just bring stuff that we are aware of, and is that okay?
Well, I think so, but.
Since I mentioned it, I obviously think so, yes.
All right, well, we have a motion and it's been seconded on the table here. So let's take a vote on that one first. So the motion was to, I'm not going to be able to say it word for word what you said, but essentially do a study on adding a crossing to the Hawksview School and look into removing the existing signal at the existing crosswalk. But in the words of Chris. All right, all in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed? None.
Yeah. And
Okay.
Jason, you said it so much better than Chris.
I don't know about that.
2 more months. 2 more months.
All right. So we've never done this where we have something we want to make a recommendation on that's not on the agenda. What's the best way to do that? Any suggestions from people more versed in public meetings?
I think we can just Mike made a motion and I'll second it. And then staff can deal with hard decisions.
That works for me. Mike, can you repeat what your motion was? I can't remember exactly.
I move that as speedily as possible, the erroneous school zone sign, I'm not sure the direction, but that's toward where Dutch Brothers is, up in that direction, be moved to within an accurate distance of the school zone so that it is valid rather than its current invalid state.
Second.
All right. So motion's on the table. It's been seconded. Does anybody have anything they want to discuss before we vote? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
And all opposed? No? Okay. Cool.
Can I make a suggestion? This is Julia. I think that was fine that you guys did that way. I was just looking at your agenda, and there's really no place on the agenda for you guys to just sort of do other things. And I know that the council, and I believe the planning commission as well, has a comments from the board type of section, and that might be a place to add to the agenda going forward, so that if there are things that like that you want to add or mention, that might be an appropriate way to do that, so it doesn't feel quite so awkward.
That's a good idea. Thank you. So along the lines of what these school issues, is that I'm assuming the cities in the past, the city has actively pursued state safe route to school grants. I wonder if, down the road, if this thing turns into something, it seems like it could fit well within that sort of type of project. Just thought. All right, well, we've got one more agenda item, looks like. 2021-003.
So that's the mini roundabout suggestion at First and Oak. Again, we put the radar trailer out there to get some data. That was sent to you. That's in your guys' packet. Maximum speed there was 31. 85 percentile was 22 miles an hour. 0 cars were clocked over 10 miles an hour. We also did a focus patrol out there with the officers. They spent just under 3 hours on the focus patrol. And in that time, they stopped 2 vehicles, and both vehicles were stopped not for speed. It was related to something other than speed. So just based on that criteria that we have, that I'm looking at right now, there is not a speeding problem. And then I believe Bob also, you have an email from, or in your packet, some correspondence with Bob and I about crashes. There were 0 crashes in that area also.
Mike, you got your hand up?
I'm sorry, I keep forgetting to lower it. I have nothing.
All right. Chris?
So unlike the Lad Hill trailer, when I get and turn on that street and see that, I wanted to see how fast I could get before I had to slow down to go around that funky roundabout. And I never got over 25. So yeah, it's not an issue.
Ruth Ann?
I walk in that area frequently. Of course, I'm not there at any peak traffic times. I'm not there at night, but my perception is that that I don't see people speeding through that area. I'm never afraid to cross the street in any direction around that the roundabout that's already there at the other intersection, nor at the entrance to the library. So I have not witnessed an issue there.
Tiffany, you got any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anybody speed in that area with that roundabout being there. I don't know how you could get up enough speed to speed through there. So I don't think that's an issue.
Mike, your hand up this time?
It really is. With all the data, I would move that we deny this request for a roundabout and just recommend that police continue monitoring. And if the situation declines and they get a lot of speeding tickets there, then we take another look at it.
Ruth Ann, your hand's up.
It was just a comment. Now that there's a motion, maybe I don't even need to make it.
You can still make it.
Okay. Well, in reading this complaint, the person speaking to it says, we hear and see drivers gun their engines on this small stretch of the road throughout the day and night. I wonder if it's more of a noise complaint than a speed complaint. It doesn't say that in so many words, but I wonder about that, which is something we can't do anything about.
Yes, good question. Okay, we got a motion on the table.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, well, all in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed? All right. Okay, so we are done with issues and complaints, and we can move on to citizen comment.
All right, we do have one citizen comment. This one was received on April 14th, and it's in regards to request number 2020-007. And there is a copy in your packet also. Dear TSC and to whom it may concern, as a family man and concerned parent, I'm compelled to write the citizen comment to strongly agree with TSC decision and City Engineer Bob Galati's reported concern for driveway access and public safety as related to the Southwest Lavender Place parking situation. The detailed report, the City Engineer's report number 2020-007 dated October 28th, 2020, prepared by City Engineer Bob J. Galati, PE, detailed specific parking safety concerns with the Southwest Lavender Place driveway drops for the two dead-end lots. The two dead-end lots were designed as a driveway drop and, in his words, No parking should be allowed along the frontage of the driveway drop as this interferes with unencumbered access to the driveway. City Engineer Bob J. Galati, PE, concluded, due to parking safety concerns, there should be no parking occurring on the dead end and up to the next driveway on the west side, as well as the east and north sides of Southwest Lavender Place along its entirety. He detailed multiple safety-related reasons to enforce these parking restrictions. As a family man and father of young children, I'd like to share some of my own thoughts and observations related to and in addition to the parking safety concerns detailed in Mr. Galati's report. In accordance with Oregon Code 811.550, parking is prohibited in front of a public or private driveway. In case of emergency vehicles will not be able to reach properties unencumbered by vehicles blocking driveway drop at dead end. With vehicles parked at the end of the street, it creates a blind spot and it's extremely difficult to exit safely, risking injuries to our Southwest Lavender Place neighborhood, children, and residents. City did post notice a proposed sign and several homeowners had questions. Clear clarification was given in response to questions as well as on no parking sign location. As far as I've seen, most, if not all, households in Sherwood come with 2-car garages and 2-car driveways, and it seems most of the homeowners utilize these convenient parking features. Benefits of avoiding areas designated as no parking. Driveways are not obstructed, allowing households to freely enter and exit driveways, peace of mind for complying with the no parking laws, dead end, as well as the east and north sides of Southwest Lavender Place will become less congested and safer for kids. Less cars equals less congestion. There is a lot of available parking on Sydney Street that is not frequently utilized. See attached images. In addition, as included in Bob's review, the area between driveway drops and along the west side is open for parking. After reviewing City Engineer Bob J. Galati's report and listening to his presentation, TSC and the City Manager agreed that parking in front of the driveway at dead end should be restricted. No parking signs were installed on March 9th, 2021, and the whole process from request to sign installation took more than 5 months. This issue was thoroughly reviewed by the TSC, City Engineer, and City Manager before the decision was made. I do not think there is any reason to revisit this case. The safety of my family and the families in our neighborhood are my primary concern, in addition to having unfettered access to driveway for 2 end lots. I hope this letter and the detailed report, City Engineer report number 2020-007, dated October 28th, 2020, prepared by City Engineer Bob J. Galati, PE, clarifies the parking safety concerns, why no parking should be permitted, and all the benefits that come with it. This is not only for the benefit of both households at dead end, it's also a safer environment for everyone that lives in the neighborhood. Thank you all for your time and attention you have dedicated to trying to create a safer environment for our neighborhood. We greatly appreciate it. Sincerely, Alden Logic and family, and Southwest Lavender Place residents. So let's see. Was there just the one?
Yes, just the one.
Oh, okay. I was thinking that. Okay, there you go.
Thank you. All right, well, that's it for our agenda. Does anybody have anything not on the agenda that they'd like to discuss?
I'd just like to say again, welcome, Dorian. It's crazy, but we get stuff done sometimes. And it's nice to have you with your experience to help guide us rookies.
It's I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to help in any way I can. It's been quite a ride the last 10 years or so. I'm working for Clackamas County and now Washington County, and I've enjoyed being able to basically give back to the community that I work for, and so now I can continue that and expand on that, and hopefully help out the city that I live in on top of that. So this is going to be, I think, a lot of fun and really good. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And thanks for participating in the discussion. And I think this was a good meeting today. So thank you guys all for participating. And I feel like we made some good progress today. So, all right. Well, if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you all.
Night, everybody.
Night.
All right.